Savannah, how in the world are you?
So good to see you here.
Nice to see you here. What's going on?
I'm liking this polo situation.
The polo situation.
Tommy Hilfiger.
Is that what that is right there?
That's my guess. I'm pretty sure.
Okay. Yeah. I couldn't tell you.
Yeah. Where'd you get it from?
My closet.
Nice. Okay. Just from my closet. This is who you are. This is it. Feeling great. Have you been watching the Olympics, Lee? Because I'm very bought in.
We did watch. We have enjoyed the Olympics a bit. Yes. We just kind of do some of the highlights in the evening. So yeah. But what's your favorite sport to be watching?
Well, I would love to be a curler.
Oh, yeah. I can see this. I don't get it.
Lee, why? What don't you get?
What do you mean, why? Isn't it obvious that it's an odd sport?
No, I think it is the best. Wait, Lee, is this our first argument for real? Okay, tell me your experience of curling.
What? I think my experience of curling is, I feel like I'm going to get in trouble here.
No, that's okay. I'm not going to be defensive.
Well, I'm not worried about you.
Oh.
I'm worried about the lovers of curling around the world. But yeah, just you tell me what you like about it.
It's a team sport.
Okay.
Anyone can do it.
Okay.
I'm not saying it's easy where anyone can do it, but I'm saying that anyone could learn to do curling.
Yeah.
Versus not anyone could become like a figure skater.
Right. Okay.
I think that it feels strategic.
I would agree with that.
And in control.
Mm-hmm.
But then there are also these elements that you really can't control it. Like if you've let the thing go too fast, it's over. Like it's going to hit and it's done. But if you haven't pushed it far enough, then it's never going to reach your goal. So I think that there's an element like no matter how much you broom or sweep, it's not going to make the ice slippery enough to me. Yeah. So I think that there's some like fun elements that are in control, some that are out of control. Love the teamwork. And I love that it feels like I could become a curler. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I could see you becoming a curler.
Believe me, I've asked my friends. This is not a lie. 2 nights ago, I was at Dicey's with 2 of my best girlfriends. And we were watching the Canadians.
Wait, Dicey's, is that the pizza place?
Yes.
Down by the railroad track?
They have great gluten-free pizza.
By the railroad track.
Mm-hmm.
I love that. I just ate there like during Winter Storm Fern when we were like away from our house. And we said, let's go find some place we've never eaten before. And we went to Dicey's. It was great.
Did you get the hot honey pizza?
Well, I don't remember what. No, I think I got an all veggie pizza.
Nice.
Because I can't eat pork and beef.
Dang it. I always forget that.
Yeah.
Yes.
But yeah, it was great. So anyway, you're at Dicey's and you're watching curling.
Our next get together can be at Dicey's.
Yeah,
okay.
That would be fun, yes.
We were watching curling with my 2 besties, and I said, if we train, that could be us in 6 years.
Yeah.
It's women and men in their 30s, 40s, and sometimes even 50s. I love it. But now you tell me why you don't like it.
No.
Okay.
No.
Fine. What's your favorite Olympic sport?
In the winter sports, I'm always amazed with the skiers.
Yes.
The of all types of the skiing, and including like what do they call it when they're doing
the half slope?
The half. What's it called? Half.
I said half slope, but I don't know what it is.
No, there's another name for it.
Half pipe.
Half pipe.
Nice.
The half pipe, and all the jumps and the speed skiing and all that stuff. And I'm very fascinated with the ice skating. I just think it's incredible.
And they killed it this year too.
Very dramatic and very fascinating. Yeah. So.
Could you see yourself ice skating in the future?
No.
No. It feels very harsh on the body.
Feels very harsh on the body, and I also don't. I also do not snow ski, and I've thought about that some for the years. But I've felt like, especially in years past, I've done enough higher risk sports, and I don't think I want to try.
Did you see the cross-country skiers going uphill?
I did watch some of that. That seems brutal.
They were doing like 5-minute and 30-second miles.
Yeah, that's
uphill in skis.
Yeah, that's incredible.
I would be vomiting left and right.
That is just one of the things that's so wonderful about the Olympics is to see these people who have trained to such limits of human ability and endurance. It's very remarkable.
It is. It's very inspiring.
Very inspiring, exemplary. Yes.
Yeah, I love it. Well, Lee, before we get started with the show, I thought we could read a couple of reviews.
Okay.
Get back on the review train.
Back on the review train.
One of them was via text message to me.
Okay.
So do you remember when we talked about me with my high school Christian formation teacher, Coach Owen?
Yes.
And how he brought me outside of the classroom and said, Savannah, why do you hate me?
Yes. Because you were being ugly to him?
Because I was being such a jerk. Coach Owen texted me. And that was the sports betting episode. He said that he enjoyed the episode. He said sports gambling is so intriguing to me because he has sons. He said, I giggled when you mentioned me in the lead up to the episode. I don't recall the interaction we had, but I also don't remember you being anything other than kind, fair, and inquisitive in high school. I hope none of us are judged or remembered for the worst moments. And he said, paraphrasing that from the prophet Ted Lasso, keep crushing it. You are loved.
It sounds to me like Coach Owen was being this kind of generous forgetfulness. Exhibiting a generous forgetfulness.
Yeah. Do you think he really doesn't remember, or do you think he's just being nice?
I think he was just being nice.
I feel like that too. He was being so kind to me.
Yeah. Because I don't have any problem imagining you being pretty snarky as a high schooler. Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
And he was just like, you were such a little angel.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Lies.
Yes.
Coach Owen, I receive your lies, but it's lies nonetheless. Okay. And then another person commented, Ginger Snaps 50. Really loved this discussion and Jen's email. Oh, so this was on our follow-up to the Celebrity Should Stay in Their Lane episode.
Okay.
Where we talked about the moral line of when do we separate artists and authors from their moral issues or lack thereof. Okay. She says, I wrestled with this after Ravi Zacharias passed away. I always enjoyed listening to his preachings. I'll always wonder how many lives he transformed. Now his online legacy is mostly about his abuse. Did I put him on a pedestal as we do with pastors, preachers, and leaders? Can both things be true? That he shared the gospel in amazing ways through an amazing ministry and abused women? Enjoyed this episode and both of your viewpoints. What are your thoughts on that?
I don't think I have anything in addition to say beyond what we said on that episode.
For you, it just comes down to prudence.
It doesn't all come down to prudence, but that is a large part of it, yes.
Yeah.
And why, asking, why we're going to continue to read or what we're going to continue to learn. What it means for a community to practice discipline, to practice forgiveness, to practice accountability, all of those things. So yeah, they're complicated questions. I do feel as if high levels of secrecy and hiding is not a very good way forward.
And I am curious about, with Ravi Zacharias specifically, not just in his teachings, but also in the way his ministry was set up, what we can learn from that.
Yeah.
Where it's like, if you are the man with all the answers and people come up and ask you all these questions and you have these perfect answers, what fruit does that create in someone's life? And should we be paying attention to that as it's repeated?
Yeah. We may or may not have talked about this, but I do think that there's a place at which it's helpful to ask, related to what you just said. Are there theological particularities, theological emphases, things that have been overlooked theologically that may also contribute to one's failings and or one's abuse of other people? How does all that play out? So
that he straight up died with.
Yeah.
He never confessed.
Yeah.
Which is wild to think about. Like what theological formation was occurring that he went to his grave holding all of these secrets of his abuse. Yeah.
Yeah.
We should pay attention to that.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, that's a very dark note to start the show on.
It is.
Do you think there's something lighter we can add into the mix? Like, what's something you're reading lately?
Theo of Golden.
Okay, what page are you on?
Probably about 127.
Thrilled.
Yeah.
Love how specific that was.
Yeah.
And what's your impression so far?
Okay, I'll be really straightforward.
Yes. I actually probably agree with you.
Okay, the language sometimes is just a touch flowery for my taste.
Agreed. Yes.
And I am very taken by the story.
Lee, this is this book. I will be reading it and I'm like, I shouldn't be crying right now. And I know I shouldn't be crying because the language can be flowery or sanitized or hallmarky.
Mm-hmm.
But for some reason, the story just gets into your heart.
Yeah. Yeah, I find myself, I usually read that kind of stuff before I go to sleep. And I have found myself on more than one occasion picking this one up during the day to read it and see what's going to happen next.
Lee, I love that.
Yeah. So.
Same exact takeaway.
Have you completed it already?
No, okay. I only have like 40 pages left. I thought I was going to read when I was in Canada, and I didn't.
Yeah.
I watched Eagles instead.
Yeah, don't give any spoilers to
I'm not going to.
Yeah.
I won't give any spoilers. On that note, let's start the show.
Hey friend, if you didn't know, I started a newsletter a while back that comes out every 2 weeks. I've been delighted to hear from so many of you about positive response to the newsletter. We call it the No Small Endeavor Notebook, where I riff on themes and topics related to our podcast, giving you additional material for thinking and doing in your own quest to make sense of what it might mean to live a good life. Join us by going now to nosmallendeavor.com and sign up there. Again, go to nosmallendeavor.com to sign up now for our free No Small Endeavor Notebook newsletter.
Welcome to the Subtext, where we go beneath the headlines and beyond the obvious. I'm Savannah Locke.
I'm Lee C. Camp.
Hey, if you like what we're doing and want to help us get the show in front of more people, please do us a favor by following and rating it wherever you listen. If you leave us a review, we might read it on the show. Give us 5 stars, hype us up. And if you want to watch full episodes, you can find that on YouTube and Spotify. You can also follow the show at The Subtext Show, me at Savannah_Locke, and Lee at Lee C. Camp. And if you have any questions or suggestions for the show, just DM us on Instagram at The Subtext Show. Lee, what is your relationship to the band U2?
I am not related to any of them.
Okay. Ooh, that was snarky. I love.
I mean, I wouldn't say that I have been a particularly super informed, critical listener through the years. Critical in the sense of engaged. But who doesn't love? I still haven't found what I'm looking for, and things of that sort. So yeah, I've certainly admired them and found them compelling. But I know that a lot of people are like, know everything about them.
Like,
and I'm not one of those. Yeah, I'm not one of those. But
I feel that you would like Bono's memoir. Have you read it?
Not yet, but it's on my list. Yes.
Yeah, it's called Surrender.
Yeah.
I almost think that you might be more taken up with Bono than the band U2, and I don't know why that's my instinct.
Well, anything that I have read about Bono and have read about that memoir, I'm always saying, oh, I sure would love to sit down with him and talk.
He would be a perfect guest for No Small Endeavor. But also, what if we just got him to come here and just chat with us about his new record?
Yeah, it would be great to chat with him about U2's new record.
Our little Irish king.
Yes, yeah.
Well, today we're going to be talking about their new record because they released one as a total surprise on Ash Wednesday. And it is called Days of Ash.
Yes.
And it was my friend who is a U2 super fan. I voice memoed him to see how he was feeling because I knew it was a big day for him. And he responded back just so giddy and excited. And he said this amazing line. He said, it's the most U2 thing that U2 has ever done. Is releasing a surprise record. None of the super fans knew it was coming. Called Days of Ash on Ash Wednesday.
Yeah, yeah. It's a very powerful EP.
So you listened through?
I did, yes.
And what were some of your initial...
Oh, I mean, I think it's one of those that I think you could listen back through repeatedly and keep taking something away from it and find yourself moved to be wanting to be a better human being and to take seriously the brokenness of the world. And so, yeah, and also to find your own way into trying to contribute and to hold on to some sort of hope in the midst of all of the brokenness. So, yeah, I think it's beautiful.
Yeah, it felt like a very prophetic record to me, like a lot of speaking truth to power, but then also a beautiful imagination for what can happen if we come together kind of situation.
Well, and they even talk about imagination and how your imagination determines your potential outcomes. And so I'm sure we'll probably talk about that in a minute, but
yeah. Well, I want to call this episode, When Did You Two Get So Political? And the reason why is because I saw it on Threads. Someone said, when did you two get so political? And Brian Zond, a pastor that I follow, responded back and said 1980. Which I love.
That's a very Brian thing to say.
Yeah. I know the only thing missing is that Brian Zond always uses the emoji with the sunglasses.
Yeah.
And that was the only thing missing from his thing. So I wanted to kind of go through some of this record and talk about different themes that are there.
Yeah, good.
Okay, so the first song is called American Obituary.
You have the right to remain silent or not.
When you heard it, what stood out to you the most?
Well, one of the things that stands out to me, not only in this song, but in several of these songs, is that it's almost as if I was fascinated by the way in which these Irishmen feel desperate to hold on to a high view of America. And that's just fascinating to me. And that surfaces repeatedly in the EP of, we need America to be America's best self. And even though the title of this track is American Obituary, that's saying something that's beautiful about America seems to be dying, they keep saying, but we need you to be America. So that was one of the first things that strikes me.
Yeah, because a lot of this stuff has a lot of American references.
Yeah.
And speaks to a lot of things in our climate specifically right now.
Yeah, I mean, this song is about the killing of Renee Good.
Yes.
And it begins with this haunting intro line: "You have the right to remain silent or not."
Or not.
Which, do we have a tradition of rights that we're going to protect and observe or not?
Yeah.
And they're clearly saying, America, you don't seem to be protecting that tradition of rights that have been central to what you're about.
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting that was how you felt. I don't know enough about you to know the motivation behind it, or if historically some of their deep cut songs have been specific to American culture. To me, it felt like a gift to Americans.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Like, we see you and like, here, like take this and run with it kind of thing.
Yeah.
That's kind of how I interpreted it.
Well, I mean, they've got this line, so again, the title of the track, American Obituary, and yet then there's this line before one of the choruses, America will rise against the people of the lie. And so they've got this tension there, right? It's something's dying, but we're trusting that you'll stand up and that you'll live again. And so, yeah, it's remarkable.
Yeah, like very encouraging from like prophet elders is what it felt like to me. Yeah. One of the lines that stood out to me in this American Obituary song was, "Our children teach us who to trust." And the reason that line sticks out to me is because in Matthew 21, where Jesus drives out the animals from the temple and overturns the tables, everyone leaves. And then it says that the blind and the lame and the children came into the temple, which I think is such a beautiful and powerful reality anyways, that once Jesus overturns these systems, the vulnerable are drawn to Jesus. But then the children start singing songs, and Jesus then quotes a psalm in Matthew 21, verses 16, and says, "Do you hear what these children are saying?" And Jesus said, "Yes." And he said, "Have you never read from the lips of children and infants, you, Lord, have called forth your praise?" So this idea of like Bono saying, "Your children teach us who to trust," and then Jesus saying that like children are more in the know than we think they are. Because these children were able to see Jesus clearly when everyone else had run away after the tables were flipped over. Yeah. So I thought that was a really beautiful moment of poetry.
And then in each of these, I think in each, certainly in this one and several others, they're pointing to someone who has borne witness in some way. And here in this one, it's Renee Good. But this haunting second verse, Renee Good, Born to Die Free, American Mother of Three, Seventh Day, January, A Bullet for Each Child You See. So yeah, this it's a very sobering. It's not sentimental, but sobering about what this sort of bearing witness might entail.
Yeah, that's beautiful. The bearing witness piece is really, I feel like that's true of all these songs too.
Yeah.
Like that whoever wrote these, I know it's probably, I'm guessing it's just all four of them, but that they are seeing clearly what's happening and reciting it back to us. Yeah. I also thought that the bridge was really powerful. It says, I'm not mad at you, Lord. You're the reason I was there. Could you stop a heart from breaking by having it not care? Could you stop a bullet in midair? And the question that I thought, and this goes so theological, but that question of could you stop a bullet in midair made me think, is God all powerful? It brings up that question of like, can God stop suffering but doesn't? And I just thought maybe we could open that up briefly for a moment. Can you solve the problem of suffering for us, Lee Camp?
No, I cannot. But I think that I'll just say briefly that I think this is another one of the things that this whole EP does is that it is calling implicitly or explicitly. It does kind of in the best kind of tradition of lament and the lament psalms, lamentation, it does call God to account.
Yeah, it does.
And to say, okay, there's a lot of horrific kinds of things going on, and we're doing our best here, Lord. And what about you?
Yes.
And so I respect and honor that sort of brave line of inquiry.
The bridge specifically feels like Bono is not afraid of offending religious systems.
Yeah.
His questioning of God.
But I mean, the another one of the songs is going to refer to the Holocaust.
Yeah.
And the silence of Christendom is the line. But if you go back and you look at a lot of the Jewish reflection on the Holocaust, or you read somebody like Elie Wiesel in his book Night, right? So one of the things that you see is that in the face of such a horror, of which there are insufficient words and adjectives to describe the horror of the horror, if you are going to reflect upon such theologically, crying out and calling out to God and calling out against God is not an act of lack of faith. It is an act of faith, because the only way you ever get to that is through faith. So I don't see Bono in doing this kind of stuff as indicting religion as such, as he's actually showing his faith by raising such questions.
Lee, that reminds me of an article that was released this week that talked about a podcast that John Piper just released. So John Piper is like a really conservative pastor. He released a podcast on lament that actually disagrees with what you just said. And so I'm so happy that you said it that way, because I want to show a contrasting view.
Okay.
So a woman wrote in with a chronic illness, and she said that she often questions God's love for her. She asked, in Jeremiah 20:14, the prophet himself cries out, "Cursed be the day that I was born." Is such raw lament even permissible for the believer, or is it blasphemous? And Piper responded by saying there is a way to lament that is a sin. And he made these 5 statements on lament. I'm so curious how you feel about these. Piper says, number 1, it is never right, it is always sin to feel or think or say critical things about God and God's ways. Number 2, it may be right to feel or think or express perplexity at God's ways and to seek help from God to understand as much as possible, to cry out for it. Number 3, it may be right to feel or think or express how painful God's ways are in your life and to seek God's help to understand and endure. Number 4, the sin of having critical feelings or critical thoughts of God is not made worse by the sin of expressing those towards God aloud. Meaning, if you're thinking that way and you express them, it's not worse just because you express them.
Okay.
Lastly, God disapproves of being criticized because it dishonors God, but God forgives those who repent and trust Christ. Fascinating, right?
Yes.
Talk to me about how you feel.
Well, my off the top of my head feeling is that sounds to me like Mr. Piper is responding more out of his Reformed tradition than the biblical tradition. And in the sense that, I mean, I don't know how you say the things he says there after reading the book of Job, for example. And at the end of the book of Job, in which Job has been highly critical, and he gets sharply critiqued by God, but he's told your friends who stood up for God were in the wrong. And so he the kind of questioning he does is not as such critiqued in my reading of the book of Job, as he just fails to sufficiently see all the wonder and majesty and awe of God. And then think about the lament psalms. I mean, the lament psalms, half the book of Psalms are lament psalms, and many of them are sharply critical of God over and over and over and over and over again. And so I think, I don't know, I don't buy it.
I don't think I buy it either. When I read it, I was fascinated. I agree. It is so Reformed. I think one pro of the Reformed tradition is it makes sense. One negative of the Reformed tradition is that like everything makes sense in it. Does that make any, like where it's like if something butts up against these Reformed values or ideals, they somehow morph them to all give way to whatever the Reformed ideals are. And so if this is so buttoned up, like the list is so buttoned up and makes sense. But then it's like if you actually gave room for these Old Testament prophets or Psalms to breathe, I think that it would push up against this in a way that Piper maybe hasn't made room for it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It all makes sense.
Yeah.
It's all buttoned up.
Yeah, it's all buttoned up.
Piper said the reason it is always wrong and never right to criticize God is that he never does anything wrong. Everything he does is right and good and wise and holy.
And you can even claim that about God, but still say, but our lived experience is that, isn't our lived experience often, okay, Lord, really? Really? And so I don't know. I'm much more prefer to accept that the biblical vision there gives us a lot more leeway and a lot more grace to let human beings be human beings and to honor their experience than to wag our finger at them for being honest about the way they experience their lives.
It has been so delightful to see more and more listeners like you sign up for NSC Plus. Our growing community is made up of intelligent and thoughtful people looking for a holistic approach to human flourishing. Signing up for NSC Plus is also a way to support the show and the work we're doing, and in fact, we depend upon that kind of support. But in addition to supporting the show, you'll get exclusive access to bonus content, and the No Small Endeavor you've come to love will be completely ad-free. In fact, you won't even hear ads like this one. So go to nosmallendeavor.com and click Join NSC Plus to become a member of our community today. Join for as little as $5 a month. Again, go to nosmallendeavor.com, click on that red button that says Join NSC Plus to become a member today.
And I would hope God is not as egotistical as us, where if he is questioned, that God blows up in response. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Or that God is offended by us.
And I will say that I do think that there are limits. I mean, I think that, I have said, in years past that when I've been through some very difficult times in my life, I have had a number of occasions where I have cursed in the presence of God, but I have not cursed God. And for me, that's an important distinction, and some of the most intimate moments in my relationship with God has been when I have been so angry and so furious and cursed in the presence of God and been so that kind of upset, and have experienced the love and compassion of God in the midst of that. So, and me being full well angry with God, so could be wrong, but that's the way I see it.
That's where we are.
Let's go back to U2, though.
Thanks, John Piper.
Yes.
Next song from U2 is called The Tears of Things.
Mussolini came to see me, a shadow by his side. Church bells ring, are vanishing, and the vanishing denied.
Which is actually a throwback to our episode that we did several months ago, where we talked about Richard Rohr's book, The Tears of Things. And my bet is that is where this title came from. My guess is that Bono reads Richard Rohr.
Well, that would be interesting to know. Very possible.
And we're just 2 degrees away if you think about it. Me and Bono. So when you heard the song, what were the vibes? What were you thinking?
I was going back to my semester in Florence, Italy, a couple of years ago, and there's the original David that's featured in this song. Is enclosed in a museum, and then there are 2 public replicas of David in the city of Florence.
Yes.
And so one of those is up on the top of the hill in the most picturesque overlook of the city of Florence, which was just above the villa where we were living. And so I would go up there a lot.
That's sweet.
And I have one of my favorite photographs I've ever taken in my travels is of the David on the top of the hill up there overlooking Florence at sunset. And it's just I must say, I think it's a gorgeous picture of a gorgeous statue. So anyway, so I was certainly flashing to Florence and all that. But this, so in the construct of the song, that the David comes to life somehow and basically is saying, oh my, I don't know that I can take in all of this.
Like talking to Michelangelo, his artist.
Yeah.
That's how I interpreted it. Yeah.
I can't, if I'm being brought to life, I don't know that I can bear all the tears of things. And it's also this sort of, in all of I presume here you have an appeal to, an allusion to David's own laments, right? And David's Psalms of lament. And thinking that one of the calls of God to him was to write such laments. And as I understand the text of the song, he's saying, well, was that the call of God, or was it just the fact that the overwhelming tears of all things are evoking my grief and evoking my pain? And so, I found this especially moving.
It was a very moving song. Yeah, I love that feedback too. And you also noted when we were talking about the first song where they talk about the Holocaust.
Right.
And that's in this song where he says, Mussolini came to see me, a shadow by his side, which is, I think it's so brilliant because like Mussolini coming to see the David statue. Church bells ring, a vanishing, then the vanishing denied. 6 million voices silenced in just 4 years. The silent song of Christendom, so loud, everybody hears.
Yeah. Well, and, I think it was 1938 that Hitler came to Florence with Mussolini. And I think that's the shadow that they're
exactly, that
right.
Hitler is a shadow. You're right.
Yeah. And so Hitler was very taken by the artistic treasures of Florence and just the way the Nazis plundered the art of Europe. They were wanting to plunder all these, and apparently did try to plunder a lot of it. But so they come to Florence. And so anyway, from what a little bit I read on this, it's not so clear that they ever did see the David together, Mussolini and Hitler, but nonetheless, he was there to see all the artwork of Florence and to think about how to steal it. But the way the lyrics of this particular song unfold is, it obviously is a lead up to the horror of what's done to the European Jewry, to the European Jews. So when I was in Florence, I went to the Jewish synagogue. They tell on the top level about what happens to the Jews in Florence and the kind of history of being accepted, not accepted, accepted, not accepted, and then finally most of the Jews of Florence being taken away. And so, again, that's one of the things that I think Bono is doing so well here, U2's doing so well here, is to say, how do you, one, how are you going to speak up and not allow horrors to unfold right under your nose? And two, a sort of indictment explicitly here of the silence of Christendom for not speaking up.
Yeah, I thought that was a pretty strong criticism of Christianity.
It's not this song, but in another song, he talks about when all the classroom prophets have gone to underground, and the way I understand what he's saying there is, look, it's easy to talk about justice when it's doesn't cost you anything.
Yeah.
But it's hard to talk about justice when it costs you something. And I think that that's one of the things that we're seeing and will continue to see, and that so many of these people that are being honored in these songs are people who did speak up, and it costs them a lot. And in numerous cases, cost them their lives.
Yes, exactly. Yes. Yeah, I like that classroom prophets line. Which song is that from? I'm so curious now.
Yeah, I don't
I'm
remember.
into it. Yes.
We'll get there in a minute, maybe.
I also really liked, lastly, the line in this song, when people go around talking to God, it always ends in tears. To me, I interpreted that as like when people start to think that God is on their side, they start to do a lot of harm in God's name, which ends in tears.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the old Bob Dylan song about God on our side. You know that song?
No.
Oh, it's one of his classics about he basically catalogs all of the wars in American history and how everybody always thinks God is on their side.
Dang.
And it's a very powerful song. But yeah, I think I suspect that could be certainly one way to interpret those lines.
Nice. Onward and upward. Next was Song of the Future.
Schoolgirl says everyone knows love is a verb, not a noun.
Here's something I love about this record is it feels like he has a hold of like all of these global traumas that are happening and has seriously spoken to so many, because this one is about an Iranian teenager who died of severe beating.
Right.
And so he's speaking to like this violence that's being done still against a lot of women in Iran.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And this is the song where he talks about all the classroom prophets gone to ground. Schoolgirl says everyone knows love is a verb, not a noun. So the schoolgirl teaches us what we need to know. And then she pays for it. I also found it interesting that it's almost as if the narrator of the song, the singer of the song, is acknowledging how cheap his words also can be. Because he says, and I'm running my mouth off. It's not poetry, and I'm running my mouth off again. And so maybe it's a sort of ironic acknowledgement of saying, yeah, me too. It's easy for us to say these things, but here this young woman is who stood up there with her sign, and they beat her to death.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I think she was only 16 years old. Her name is Serena, and that's what the whole chorus is. It's like her name, Serena, she's the song of the future playing in my mind.
Yeah.
Gotta find a way to get her. She's holding up the sign.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's one thing to say that you love justice, but it's another thing to do it and really let your life be on display. And
this song is where we began to get this vision about imagination and about hope, right? So it says she's the song of the future, and how crucial it is for them on this EP that what you anticipate and what you hope for is crucial. What you imagine is crucial.
Yeah, well, I was actually kind of confused by that line.
About she's the song of the future.
Why do you think it's present tense? Yeah, she is the song of the future.
Well, I think it's because of proleptic.
I don't know what proleptic means.
Proleptic is, I use this in my teaching and lecturing a lot. So proleptic is a grammatical move so that when you're speaking of something that's in the future, and yet you are so confident that that future thing will come to be that you use the present tense to speak of it.
So like the kingdom is here.
Right, yeah. So the example I always give is when my boys were still at home and I was getting ready to take them to school, and Chandler was upstairs in his room, and we were waiting on him, and David was standing beside me in the kitchen, and I shout up the steps to Chandler, I'm in the car. And David is standing beside me, and he says, "No, you're not, Dad.
Yeah.
You're standing in the kitchen."
Yes.
And I said, "David, that was a proleptic reference." Right. And that is the key to Christian ethics, is that you believe that the future is so sure to be that you live according to the future even now. Right. So you're so sure that there will be abundance and generosity that you live a life of abundance and generosity now. You're so sure that there will be healing, you practice healing now. You're so sure that there will be peace that you practice peace now. And so this is what it means, I think, to live as a people who proclaim the present and still coming kingdom of God. And so I don't know if that kind of thing is one of the things that's going on here or not. But
as an interpretation, though, it rocks.
Yeah.
Lee, I love that. That makes it so moving to view that chorus through that lens. That's beautiful. Okay, moving on. Wild peace.
Like wildflowers, suddenly, because the field must have it. Wild peace.
This is a poem by an Israeli author and poet, Yehuda Amichai. How do you pronounce that? Okay, great. But it's read by a Nigerian artist. And the music was done by U2 and Jack Knife Lee. So I also just love, it's very global. Do you know what I'm saying? It's giving global, where he's like pulling all of these artists from all across the world to tell all of these different stories, which I thought was stunning. And the poem itself is stunning. Did anything stand out to you?
Well, I think one of the things that stands out to me, and that is only standing out to me as now I'm saying this a third time as we've talked through the tracks one at a time, and that it's almost as if the layout of this EP is brilliant, because one track anticipates a theme that's going to recur in a subsequent track. And so one of the things I see anticipated here that's going to come up later is rather than thinking about some grand display, you're letting this simple exhibition of what you're anticipating and wanting to happen right here with you, right here, right? And so here's it's not a big old ceasefire that world leaders have negotiated, not even the vision of the wolf and the lamb, but it's this sort of thing that is tangible, that sort of peace that you feel after you're exhausted and you've worked hard at something and you just feel so quiet and at peace, right? And so it's a sort of smallness of things, I think, that maybe they're pointing to. And the whole notion of wild peace, I guess, is playing off of it, as it says explicitly in the third line from the last, is like wild flowers, right? Yeah. And so the idea is that it's a sort of beautiful thing. If we'll just give it space to spring up, then it'll spring up. But we got to make space for it to spring up. And we desperately need some wild peace, like wildflowers.
Yeah, I agree. That's how I interpreted it as well. It's like, I'm not even trying to solve all the world's issues at the moment.
Yeah.
I just want to make room for peace to grow.
Yeah.
Yeah. I thought it was absolutely stunning. Okay, 2 more and then we're going to be done. The next one is One Life at a Time.
What you have depends on what you are. What you buy is what you're being sold.
Which is precisely the theme I was just talking about, anticipated, right?
Literally, how weird is that? Are you picking up on something?
Yeah, I think I'm picking on the way that they've layered these tracks together in such a way to anticipate one after the other. That's really brilliant.
We're like little music scholars. These had some of my favorite lines. I did feel like this was the edgiest song, perhaps, to me. I really loved it. The line that said, "What you have depends on what you hold. What you buy is what you're being sold." Stop it. This idea, to me, what that did was it poked back on this reality that we think we're in control of the decisions and the choices we make. But what he's saying is you're all being manipulated. And the decisions we make are being formed by these like greater systems.
And then it has that line that I've been talking about earlier that was anticipated in earlier songs. What you imagine is your destiny, right?
Yeah.
And so the way that we imagine, whatever it is that we give our imagination to, is going to determine what possibly can come.
Yes.
I don't want to say can limit whatever could come, but definitely, if you just think about this in your own life, right? Our imagination is a very powerful thing. And if we imagine if we're constantly in bondage to only imagining worst possible case scenarios, then we go into those scenarios contributing our own badness to it. But if you imagine some sort of redemptive possibilities, then you can go into difficult situations with a new possibility, a new way of being present that can contribute to a redemptive end, I think. And so that seems to me that's one of the invitations here.
Nice.
And then they have this one life at a time, one life. And again, so it's what are you going to do with your one life?
Exactly.
What am I going to do with my one life?
Yes.
And it's just one life at a time.
Yes.
And this, interestingly enough, this reminds me of another Irishman who we've had on the show a couple of times, Padre Gotuma, who's an Irish poet and peacemaker. And maybe we can slip in here, and I think we even have it on video, slip in Padraig's very moving poem about people being killed one life at a time.
So anyway, here's a part of a poem called The Pedagogy of Conflict. When I was a child, I learned to count to 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But these days I've been counting lives, so I count one life. One life. One life. One life. One life. Because each time is the first time that life has been taken. Legitimate target has 16 letters and one long, abominable space between two dehumanizing words.
And so it's, destruction happens one life at a time and redemptive possibilities happen one life at a time. So I found this really moving.
Yeah, I thought it was beautiful. And it does follow, literally, Lee's so smart, from the wild peace thing that brings it down from these huge systemic issues. Brings it down to this idea of wildflowers or wild peace, and then this doubles down on that idea of one life at a time.
Yep.
I love that.
Yes.
Lastly, yours eternally.
If you have a chance to reach for me.
This felt like the outlier in the record to me.
Say more.
I don't know. I don't know if it was adding Ed Sheeran to the mix. I'm not sure what the deal is, but I was just like, it felt like an outlier.
Yeah.
Although I suppose with your new narrative of like kind of starting big and then ending small, the lyric of if you have a chance to reach for me, in the chaos of the earth will find beauty, which maybe is like this idea of even if everything is on fire, we can still make something beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah, for me, the continuity in it especially shows in this line: if you have the chance to hope, it's a duty. And I don't think we think about hope that way, right? But it is a duty, and that relates to the tradition, the Christian tradition, that's seen despair as sin against the Holy Spirit. Right. So because despair is this lying down in the hopelessness that refuses to think that it's possible for God to enact something new. And here it's, well, if you do have the chance to hope, it's a duty. And again, going back to the imagination piece, right? We have to keep leaning into hope. We have to keep leaning into imagining some sort of new possibility, and then doing our part to try to make that thing come true.
I love that, Lee. Lee, I'm literally not just saying this because you work with me. You legitimately would be such a great music critic.
Well, maybe it's why we started our theological variety show in 2008, is because I always love this stuff, and I love what the songwriters do.
We need to ask Bono to come to the next one.
Yeah. Well,
Bono, if you hear me, you're invited. Open invitation for you, Bono.
Yeah, that would be nice.
I wonder what his fee is.
I think it's more than you can afford.